All right, so in this lesson right here, what we're going to be doing is taking a look at some basic lighting in Unreal Ed. So, to start out with, first let's go ahead and simply create a light.
Okay, I'll just right-click on the ceiling and say Add a Light there.
All right, now with this basic light in there, we'll go ahead and rebuild lighting so that we can actually see the effect that we have from that light. And as you can see, this light is actually acting as an omni-type light, or kind of like a light bulb. It's emitting light out in all different directions. Now, there's some properties that we are going to be very interested in this particular lesson. It's going to be ones that you're going to be dealing with quite often. So by right-clicking on the light and opening up the Light Properties dialog, you'll see we've got a light color and a lighting rollout. And from up underneath both of these, there are various parameters that will give us various types of effects. And one of the most commonly used one would be light brightness, where we can come in here and we can type in different values. And you can see right now Logan's just made the light brighter. And if he comes in here and he turns it down, it'll make it dimmer again. Okay. Now, as he's making these adjustments to the parameters, we're just getting a representation of what's going on in our scene. Each time, if we want to actually see the way the light's truly going to affect it, we need to go up there and rebuild the light. Okay, so that's the way it would actually look right there. Now, below that, we've got light hue and light saturation. We can adjust these two numbers if we'd like for achieving a specific color for the light, or we could simply go up to the color, and then from in here, we can actually select the color that we may be interested for the light to emit. So he's picked kind of a yellowish-brown color, and you can see now that the light is giving off a yellowish-brown colored light. All right, simple enough. We also have, let me show you, we had one more button up there available, which was... If we get back up there, there we go, which was pick, which just allows us to actually pick from any color that exists inside our viewports. And it's just handy. Right now we really don't have anything to pick from, so there's no reason to really use it. Okay, from there, just a couple more things we want to point out, and that is if we come down to the light radius area, we can actually adjust the radius of this light, basically adjusting its fall off. So there he's increasing it. And if you go in there and decrease it to something really tight, so now you'll notice it's more concentrated up in the corner and falls off relatively quick. And if we wanted to actually see the radius for this, we could see it, couldn't we, Logan?
Right. Inside of Viewport, you can activate Radii View for actors. You do this by right-clicking on the toolbar, going to Actors, and saying Radii View. You zoom out just a little, you can see the big circle where it's showing the radius of the light's fall-off.
And it is actually hitting the floor. It may not look it with the video size being scaled down that you guys are seeing, but there is some illumination going on the floor right now. All right, Logan, go ahead and turn that back off for me if you don't mind.
Okay, turn that off by simply selecting Full Actor View.
Okay, excellent. So let's go ahead now and talk about some other light effects. Basically, let's show them a cylinder-type light or a cylindrical light and also a spotlight.
Okay. So let me create a second light up here real quick. Add a new light with its properties window still open. We'll change its effect to cylinder. And then rebuild. We might have to adjust the light radius a little.
Yeah. And you're probably going to need to bring them down as well.
Get a little bit smoother fall off going on there.
Now it looks like we have an emitter of light that's emitting out, I guess you could say from a shaft or a cylindrical type shaft, by the way that the walls and the floor and ceiling are being illuminated.
Right.
Okay, so now go ahead and make another light, except this time I guess you need to talk about two different ways that you could go about doing it, but what I want to show you guys is a spotlight.
All right, now a spotlight would obviously have to be directional, and you could grab an existing light and just set its effect to spotlight. The problem is you wouldn't have an arrow to visually see which way that light's pointing. You could only gauge based off of the light it's casting. If you wanted an actual light actor with an arrow drawn showing which way it's facing, you can come up to the Actor class browser under Lighting and grab Spotlight. With the spotlight selected, you can simply right-click, add that spotlight, and then if you select the spotlight, you see you have an arrow so you can see exactly which way that light is pointing.
Okay, now if you want to go ahead and control, right-click, drag to rotate it around, just to show them some of the cool feedback that we actually get.
If I turn on the real-time preview real quick, you can see as I rotate that around, it's actually doing a really good job of showing a preview.
Absolutely. Of course, again, you need to rebuild lighting to see the way that the walls will actually be illuminated by that light. In this particular case, we don't have a lot of lights going on in the scene. It's not very complicated, not very complicated shadows or anything, so it's a relatively accurate representation when it's previewing light like this before we rebuild it.
Right.
Okay, and another way that we could take a light and turn it into a spotlight would be?
Just to go through its properties, under its light effect, you could simply grab Spotlight, as Spotlight is listed right there.
Okay, so if you change that over to a spotlight right now, we don't get an arrow, right?
No, we don't.
Okay.
I mean, we might be able to rotate it with certain methods, but it's still just not the same as being able to see exactly where it's pointing.
Okay. And talking about being able to control which way a light is pointing, I remember all the way back in the introduction lesson of this VTM about talking about how we could actually it wasn't in the introduction, it was in the viewports lesson, how we could actually take our camera and make it jump to a specific actor and then have that actor constrained to the camera so that we can use the camera to control which way that actor was pointing. So could we do that here with this light?
Sure, we could use the lock to selected actor by toggling it on and then grabbing our spotlight. And let's see, sometimes the recording equipment interferes a little bit.
The software that we use for recording sometimes keeps it from actually updating the light as we look around.
But
but the whole idea is basically right now you get these crosshairs. You can look around, and as you actually look around, normally you're going to see the light actually updating. And then, of course, you can rebuild it when you're done. Okay, and then he's just unlocked it so that he can now move his camera away from it. And you can see that by rebuilding it, the light is now pointing in the direction that we took the camera and we looked in. So he's now looking up kind of in the left-hand corner, rebuilding, and you can see the illumination is now more up in the left-hand corner.
Okay, so simple enough.
So pretty simple. This is all we really wanted to cover as far as basic lighting is concerned. There's all sorts of other effects and types that we can get into, but right now for Level Editor 101, we're not wanting to do that. At this point, we're wanting to take some of this basic knowledge that we've just seen and go over to our actual level now and illuminate it. Start throwing some lights into it to make it look interesting. So a quick recap what we've talked about. Basically, is some different light types through light effects. We've talked about how to set light brightness and light colors as well. And we've also talked about the spotlight and how we could actually use the camera to help point where the spotlight's going to be pointing. So with that, what we'll do is go and close the dialogues down, and you guys are about to see a quick flash over into our level, and we'll start illuminating it. Okay, so we've now got our massive little level loaded here. And we're ready to go in there and start creating our lights. Now, we do have some lights already in the scene that we've put in there as temporary working lights. And Logan, go ahead and take a second and take some of those lights out so that we can start doing the real deal.
Right, we're going to start and just add all our lights in the exact positions that we'll be needing them.
Okay.
So I'll go back and hunt down those existing lights we had in there and start selecting and deleting some of them. Matter of fact, delete all 3 of them. And with those lights out of the way, I can begin adding the lights where we actually want them, starting out with the light in the center of the column. I'll right-click and add a light, and let me see, I can move that light down some, and we're also going to change its effect. So let me grab it, move it down, right about there. Okay, so now we'll right-click, grab its light properties, and under lighting, set its light effect to cylinder.
So this is going to give us that shaft of light again.
Right, and extend the shaft of light farther down.
And it's going to also help illuminate our tracks for the elevator coming up.
Right. Let me rebuild lighting, and you'll be able to see that. So now you can see that we do have all the tracks, and if you look all the way down, then we're actually starting to get some lighting all the way down to the bottom of our level.
Okay, very nice.
Now, if you look back away a little, you see like the outside of the pillars are still very dark, and we need to add some more lights to get a good ambience going so we can see all our textures.
Okay.
So first, since it's going to be a similar light type, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate off of this first one and move it out kind of towards the edge of that inner cylinder there, if you will. And let's see, all I need to do for that one light is go in and change its brightness down to 16, and also lower its radius. I'm doing this because this light's going to be duplicated to go around all 4 sides, and we don't want it to be too overbearing. So with those set, I can go ahead and duplicate this light over to the other 4 sides, or the other 3 sides. Now that we have those lights in place, let's see, I was going to move them down as well so that we get a nice even illumination on the outsides of the pillars. So let me go in real quick and grab those 4 lights. And then let's see, let's drag them about down to the center of the inner arena. Maybe somewhere around there. Now if we were to rebuild lighting, we should see a more even glow on the outside of our pillars.
So our lighting is going to be evenly distributed now.
Right. So you can see now we've actually got some ambience in there, and we can take a look at it and see what our level's starting to look like with our real lighting in place.
Okay, starting to get a nice soft feel to it, if you will.
Right. Okay, and if you remember, we have all these lights around the walkways, and I'm going to go ahead and start lighting those now. Let me just come on down to where we have one of those. I'll switch over to textured for a minute while in order to clearly see.
Yeah, it makes things a lot easier to see when you don't have all those dark areas in there.
Right. So I'm going to right-click and create a new light there. And let me go around and find where I added that. So right about here, grab that light, make sure I center it up on the light fixture, and then maybe move it down a little as well to make sure we get a good even illumination all around it. So with that, let's see. I also need to set some more parameters because you'll notice that this light fixture has a yellowish glow to it, and we want to try to mimic that to keep a good feel to the level, and also add some different contrasting colors. So I'll go down to light color, and of course I could play around with maybe the picker and select a color that's close, but I've already gone and found a few numbers that work well. So I'm going to go ahead and set in some brightness, hue, and saturation, and I'll grab the radius and set that down to 32, so it won't affect such a wide area. And with that in place, I can go ahead, back over into dynamic lighting, and there you kind of start to get an idea. I'll let the preview just catch it for now, because I need to duplicate around all 8 to really get a good idea of what this looks like.
Sounds pretty good.
So, since we're going to be doing a lot of that duplicate and rotate, I'm going to go ahead and start a new group for this set of lights. So I'll open the group browser. I'll create a new group, and let's call this Walk Lights. I'll hit OK. Let me move the groups out of the way a little bit. And now, I'll go ahead and start duplicating. Control W, and then center it back up pretty well. Also notice that lights aren't constrained to the normal drag grid, which makes sense because your lighting needs to be exact, and it doesn't have to snap to anything. So, with that centered up again, after being duplicated, I'm going to zoom in on the center a little bit. Notice I have my grid set pretty high, so that all I have to do is click in the general location of the center, and when I say place the pivot snapped, it will actually go there. Now you can't see it yet because I don't have enough lights selected, but even just lights by themselves, if you have enough selected, you'll actually be able to see a pivot when you start snapping it.
So what he's saying right now is just with the one light selected, sometimes you're not going to see that pivot.
Right.
Is this a drawing or a bug in a sense?
It's just more that generally you don't. It's like snap lights in a sense, but I'm snapping its pivot, and I actually am getting the full effect of that. You can see it's got that nice arc to it, and I can run it right over exactly to that next light fixture.
Okay.
So now I can go back to my groups, make sure I select Walk Lights, and then hit Select All in Group, and that way I've got both lights. Now I can duplicate those lights and move them over and center them up. Then go back, make sure their pivot is centered to the place the pivot snapped. And there you can kind of see I've got that little bit of orange there. You might just be able to see it, but it's actually showing a pivot for these lights now. So I can continue rotating these lights around to fill the remaining light fixtures. Walk light still selected. Select all in group. Let's see, select the view, duplicate again. Line those lights back up, like such. Snap the pivot to the center. Come on. Pivot. Place snapped here. And then I should be able to grab those and rotate. Let me find which light fixtures need remaining lights. And rotate until I have all the light fixtures with a light in them.
Okay, so now we should be able to easily duplicate that whole ring of lights and start moving them up.
Right. Now, let me check, make sure I have... I almost had one overlapping, you see, in this corner here. Got to be a little bit careful of that because they don't exactly snap to any kind of a rotation grid either. So just make sure you don't have overlapping lights. It'd actually be pretty easy to see because you'd have one light that would be twice as intense. So now with check to make sure I have every light filled. Now I can go ahead and rebuild and get an idea of what this is looking like now. So I'll do rebuild lighting. And as you can see, it's starting to take longer as we go through and add more and more lights.
Starting to have created a sort of serious little level here there, Logan.
Definitely. Just wait till we get another contrasting color in there. Alright, so there we've got a nice little soft yellow glow coming from these lights. We've got a group that allows us to select all of them in this 8-light ring. So we'll go ahead and select all of them and duplicate them so that we can move them up to the second and third levels. So I'll go ahead and duplicate, center them back up. Let me zoom in just a little, make sure I get these pretty exact. Okay. Now I can go from a front view and move all these lights up until they're roughly the same distance beneath, so say around there, and then duplicate them. So I've got that set, so duplicate them one last time, center them back up, and move those finally to the top layer, or the top set of light fixtures. Right around in there. So with that, do you want to rebuild, or you want to...
Let's go ahead now and start working on the blue lights.
Okay. So let me go find where I had one light fixture.
These are going to be the lights in our outer rings now.
And let me go back to a textured view so I can kind of see what's going on in those areas where I don't have light. So now I've got that light fixture. And I need to start illuminating around it so we get a nice... Well, we're going to go ahead and put a nice bluish glow inside here. So just to get a light in the general area, I'll right-click and add a light. Let me zoom in a little and grab that light and then center it up on the light fixture and then pull it down so we can actually see it in the scene. I'll move it kind of close so it's like that light fixture is emitting light. And we'll go in there and set a few of its properties. Under light color, we'll set the brightness to 200. We'll set the light hue to 149. And we'll set the light saturation to 91. And under lighting, we'll set its light radius to 40. So with that, if I turn dynamic lighting back on, you'll see we're starting to get sort of a bluish light. And say at this point, do you want to rebuild and get an idea, or keep building onto this light?
You want to go ahead and do the special light?
Right. Okay, notice how even if I was to rebuild, it still wouldn't light the fixture that well. That's because it's being so close to it that not much of the light has a chance to expand and get to it. What we would need is a second light below it, but then that would flood the rest of our level with light. So we can use a little trick called special lit. With that one light still selected, I'll go ahead and duplicate it, center it back up, and then move it straight down. And now you notice, I mean, of course, ignore the rest of the walls where they're getting definitely over bright, but check out the static mesh. See how it's getting the lighting on the static mesh is much better now. Now, if we wanted to catch the light from this light and have it cast only on this one static mesh, we can use something called special lit. If I was to grab the light, grab its properties, and look under lighting, I find special lit set to false. If I set that to true, and then grab the static mesh, and also set its special lit to true, and then I go and rebuild lighting, you'll see that this light will no longer be casting light on all the surrounding walls, but it will be casting light on the static mesh and brightening it for us. So I'll just wait for that to rebuild. And yes, while we're at it, we could probably take a peek outside and see where the rest of our yellowish lights are being rebuilt, because now we've got 24 and not 8 of them. Okay, and there. Now it's nice and kind of darker and moody, but you still see a nice bright light coming off of the static mesh, so it looks just somewhat more realistic. And so with that, we should be ready to go ahead and grab this whole little light system we've got. Notice how we didn't put this light fixture anywhere else around the outer rings. So I'm ready to go ahead and start selecting these lights and the fixture and adding a new group for it. So I'll say new group, we'll call this outer ring lights. And create that, select it. And now ready to start and start duplicating these again. I might have to set my grid down because now I'm actually dealing with a static mesh, which is going to respect the drag grid. I'm going to set it all the way down to 4 just to make sure that after I duplicate, I can center it back up perfectly. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate, center it back up, and then move the pivot to the center here. Let's see. I might have set the grid a little bit higher, and I might end up moving that light out of the way if that works out better. Pivot, place pivot snapped, and then I should be able to start rotating this, going back to my outer ring lights, selecting all in the group, and then I should be able to duplicate. And I'll be careful about the grid here because I do want to be able to snap these back after I duplicate. So I'll have to zoom in, but just to make sure that they snap dead on. Then I'll change the grid to make it easier to snap the pivot to the center. And I can rotate these this set, go back and select all in the group, and let's see, grid back down to 4 to make sure we can center these up, duplicate, center, set the grid, and then snap the pivot. And with that, we should be able to get these the rest of the way around the level, like such.
Very nice.
And now we should have the entire top section lit.
And now we could simply take all of that, duplicate it, and move it down.
Exactly. So we could select all of those, grab them. Let me see if there's anything. All right, that looks good. So with all this selected, go ahead and, let's say, set the grid down just to make sure we can grab them all. Duplicate, center them back up, and then go in, say, a front view, and start moving all of them down to the second level. And let's see, make sure they stay lined up. Duplicate them again, and put them on the bottom level. Line them up. Line up in that view, and then that should do it. I guess at this point I could go ahead and do another rebuild lighting just to make sure so we can actually see what this looks like without it being over bright everywhere.
Absolutely. Starting to get quite a few lights in here.
Definitely.
And of course this results in the rebuilding stage going slower and slower every time we get to it.
That's necessary to make the level look really nice.
Ah, I understand.
So now, yeah, we definitely have significantly more lights in the level. We've lit all 8 edges around and then duplicated that to 2 more levels.
I guess once this gets done, what we'll do is we'll actually move out into the arena area and kind of look around back at the glass. Hey, that's looking pretty nice.
So yeah, now it's respecting that special lit so that we're not double illuminating everything.
Right. And if we move out through that door there,
then we can see there we have a nice contrasting color. We have the yellowish hues and then the bluish hues, and then our whiter lighting in towards the center.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, so that's going to pretty much wrap it up for everything we want to show you as far as basic lighting is concerned for Unreal Ed version 1. Well, no, hold
version
on.
3.0.
3.0, but what I'm getting at is Level Editor 101. Yeah, VTM. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So anyways, that's going to pretty much wrap up lighting our level. And Logan, if you just look around real quick, that's pretty much what we set out to create from the beginning. As a matter of fact, go ahead and move back down to the very bottom and look back upwards.
Right, yeah. So now if I look up, you can see.
There you go. That's what we started out wanting to create, and we actually created it right here on this VTM. Hope you guys got a lot out of this lesson. All right, thanks a lot.